Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and we've got something slightly different. I've been asked many times whether I'll share my mixed media process, and I haven't really had, let's say, a vehicle to share it with. Now, you're all familiar probably with my art stroke glue book, which is going to get a bit dark when I pop it up, but as you can see, this is where I do like my collage stuff and pieces like that in that, but it's not really where I would do mixed media for sharing. So I thought, right, let's start a new playlist and let's start a new project. And to do that, I wanted to create an altered book into my new mixed media journal, or new mixed media art book, should we say. So I went shopping this morning and I went to my local thrift store, charity shorts. Oh, I can't speak. My local thrift store, charity store, or Goodwill store, whichever you know it as. And I picked up a book, and this was 50 pence, which is about 50 pence Britain is probably about 75 cents in US, and I'm not really sure what it is in Australia, but you get the gist. It was incredibly cheap. Now, when I look for books that I'm going to adjust into an art book, I look for books that are meant to have a long life, like a Reader's Digest book that's what I would call a coffee table book is a reference book that is meant to last a long time, like an encyclopedia or like a large dictionary. Sometimes when you buy a book that's maybe a story or a novel, it's meant to be just read the once or twice, and then it's not really meant to go the length of time. So I look for these. I also look for, I'm not sure you're going to be able to see it, see along here. This tells me that the spine or the signatures are stitched in. So if I was to find the middle, actually that might be the middle of that one. Let's have a little, see if I can find the middle. Where are you? Where's the middle gone? Oh, there you go. I'm not sure you're going to be able to see that, but you might. There you go. This pages and this signature are stitched in. I prefer those than ones that are glued in, purely because if it's glued in and I start tearing pages out and liquid gets soaked into it, sometimes the glue will degrade. Excuse me, a bit of a cough there. You do still have to be aware about the stitching, because sometimes over time you can rot the stitching if you don't look after the stitching in a book. So now, as you can see, this is quite a tome. And if I was to start putting art pieces on here and building up the bulk, I would break the book, or it would end up looking like this because it'd be so stuffed. So I need to remove pages to allow the book to expand, to be able to create in, and also to reduce the stress on the spine here. So I'm going to gut part of this book, and what I'm going to do is all the spare pages will go into this basket. So when I am creating in this book, should I want text in the same theme or the same style, I've always got pages to collage from or use anyway, and I will use book pages in the background anyway. So we're going to do this process together. Now, it's going to be a long-winded process, so I'm going to do a couple of pages, then I'm going to turn you off. I'm going to finish all the pages and come back and show you how I prep the next layer to the next part in the process to make sure I can use the book. And then I will see, maybe we'll end up creating a cover for it as well, because I don't need my art journal to look like that. I will probably cover this with something as well, but because this is a fabric, I could literally just paint over the top of that should I so choose. Now, for me, the important pages in the book are probably the first couple of pages. You'll find they're stuck together even more so than the sewn in ones, and you'll find that at the front and at the back. And the reason that's done is because these are quite integral to the support of the spine, so I respect that. So I'm going to take the first 3 pages and I'm going to stick them together. Now what I'm going to use is, I'm just using regular glue stick, because at the end of the day, if any of these pages come apart, I can always just use whatever glue I want. So I concentrate on the spine and the edges of the book, or the edges of the page, should I say. You could use other glues. I mean, I've always found that a glue stick works perfectly well for me. I know it's a water-based glue, and I know that I'm going to be using wet mediums in this book. However, I also know that I'm going to be using Mod Podge or gesso to seal the page. Now, once you've glued the page, try to close the book, because if you don't, the page will creep and you'll end up with edges here. As it's in place, I then take a bone folder and I just smooth it just to make sure I've got all of that glue touching down. If it got a bubble in it, I don't mind that. If there's a crease in it, I also don't mind that, because to be honest, it just adds to the texture. So those two pages are now together. I'm going to come in, I'm going to do the next two pages. This page to that page. You know what I mean. So I'll just do this one, and then I'll show you the tearing out page bit that I want to show you. So just put a layer of glue on there. As I said, the important bit really are the edges of the book, and I like to make sure that the spine has got a layer of glue as well. And again, I'll come in, close the book, and then I will work it down from the end, from the spine outwards. So now I've got my first 3 pages stuck together, and as you can see, that gives me quite a robust page to work on. I would then go and do exactly the same at the other end, which I won't do, but that will be my next page. So now that I've got this all stuck down, I'm now going to start what I call gutting the book. So hopefully as I explain this, I won't confuse anyone, but I take a page and then I take the next page and I will just tear it out of the spine. And that goes in the basket. I turn another page and then I tear the next one out. So then what happens is when I stick these 3 pages together, the torn out area is sandwiched between them. So that's my next job. I'm going to come through and I'm going to stick those 3 pages together. Now, a few things about doing an art journal or an art book, or as this is going to be, it's going to be my mixed media book, to take into consideration. If you're going to be doing this, when you're selecting the book that you're going to recycle, try to find something that's got a good hardcover on it. Try to find something that's got a good spine on it, and try to find something that's got reasonably thick paper in it, or paper that you think will stand the test of time. And as you've heard, I already like to use what I call coffee table books. Just smooth that down. I also like to have books that don't have a lot of photographs in them. Now, I don't mind these, because if you look through this, there aren't actually photographs. There's drawings and sketches. Now, these might become interesting details in the background, but to be honest, they're not shiny pictures. And I'm going to be gessoing and doing stuff over the top and building up the images anyway, so I don't see a problem with the pages in here. And the text will just add more interest to the background of my collage or my mixed media piece. It will just give me layers upon layers of interesting visual texture. So again, close the book up as much as I can, and then I work and I smooth it out. So, right. So you've seen me do that twice now. Just to reiterate, I just glued the first 3 pages together to make it nice and robust. The next 3, I gutted the pages in between. So this is now a sandwich of a good page, a torn page, a good page, a torn page, a good page. Okay, so I'm just going to continue that process all the way through the book. So turn a page. So here I am back again. Right, that process, let's give you some details. This book originally had 641 pages. As you can see, we've gutted quite a lot of them. I've removed approximately 100 pages from this book throughout, and I've ended up with 44 pages, which are now a lot more robust. A couple of things you need to know about. Do not get hung up on the amount of pages you remove. You can remove more pages. I mean, I've ended up with 44 pages here. It could be, as I'm working on this, I find I have to remove more in the future. I mean, it's one of those things you never know. It depends on the mediums I'm using. Just if a page looks like it's going to come out, just take it out and just glue it to the next page. If when you're working you find, maybe I haven't got one here, hopefully, you've forgotten to glue a page, then all you need to do is either glue it to the page before the page afterwards, or just tear it down the spine, whatever you want to do. Now, when you've glued all of this, I'm not sure I said it when I was saying before, as I was opening up and I was like turning a page, tear a page, turn a page, tear a page, and glue them together, after I did about, let's say 10 or 15 pages, I would turn the book over and then start from the other direction. The reason I did that is because the weight of the book then helps flatten out the pages below, and then after about 10 pages, I turn it back again, so I work my way towards the middle. Something else you're going to find too is because you're using a glue stick, you're going to have got glue on the edges of the book, so periodically turn your pages, because let's see if I can find one. They will, there you go. You can see that the bigger pages stick together, but if you periodically just thumb through it and separate them as the book is gluing, they'll no longer be glued together. Talking about drying time, this book will probably take a couple of days to fully dry out, and I would recommend letting it fully dry out before you work in it, because I've used a lot of glue stick in this. I mean, I've used 3 entire glue sticks, which is 3 times 43 grams worth of glue sticks, just putting this together. I want it to be fully dried. See, here's another one that's stuck. So just periodically go through. Okay, so that was all the stats on it. It took me an hour, took me 3 glue sticks. I reduced it from 641 pages to 44 new thicker pages, and I removed over 100 pages from the book. That will vary on whatever book you start with. I mean, if you start with a smaller, narrow, thinner book, you're going to have less pages to take out. So anyway, right, I wanted to address, which is why I put the green slip in there. Okay, when I was tearing out, and you saw it happen on screen, I got to a page where it tore and left a jagged edge. Now, I wasn't worried about that, and I'm not worried about that, because normally I treat the join anyway, and I'm going to explain why now. When you're working in wet mediums, whether it be watercolours, inks, acrylics, gessos, Mod Podge, whatever, the liquid is going to go down in here and sort of seep into the spine, and it could also seep through and maybe come through on another page, or it could go in and rot the fibres eventually. So I like to seal this off a bit. So what I do is I choose any of the washi tapes in my collection I'm not overly fond of, and I try to choose the wider ones. I then take a piece of the book page that we've been working on, looking at its right height, and I'm going to tear a strip, tear it off, and I'm going to come in with the glue stick and I'm going to glue it down. Now the reason I'm gluing is because washi tape, or you can use masking tape for this, by the way, that's another one, decorator's masking tape. It's not meant to be a permanent tape, but by putting a bit of glue on it, it becomes more permanent. Let's slide that back in so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm being one-handed because I've got a stickiness happening here. I then just lay that down the centre there, and because I've got the glue on it, it will slide, and I can just push that down into the crease. If you need to use a bone folder, by all means use a bone folder, just so that you've actually sealed up that crease. Okay, I've missed it a little bit by there. I'm not going to worry. I'm just going to put another piece in. All of these layers will get covered up by subsequent layers of collage or paint or ink or whatever I wish it to be. But do try to get that all nicely sealed up. Now, a lot of the time I will leave it like that, but if you've got a washi tape, and I'll trim that when it's dry, if you've got a washi tape you're not particularly keen on seeing, or you think it's too vibrant and it's going to show through, another thing that I'll do is I'll take a piece of the original book page, because obviously it's the right size, just use a ruler, come down, and I'll tear a strip off that, and then I'll tear, once it's off my ruler, I'll tear another strip off there. I'll then fold this in half, right down the middle, and then what I do then is I actually go in by finger and I tear this, because there's nothing as hard as covering up a straight line when you're working in mixed media or collage or any of the art things. A straight line is really, really hard to cover up because it's such a telltale line. But just by coming down and finger tearing that, you've got much more of a chance of actually getting it disguised in the eventual piece of art. Now you could make this strip a lot wider and cover more space with it, whichever you want to do. I try not to do this on every single spread because what you'll find is you're just adding back in the bulk you took out. So I'll come in and I'll take my glue stick and I will run it down just one side of this, not both sides. And I'm not worried if it's upside down, the right way up, whichever it is. And then what I'll do is I'll push that into the spine. And then I'll fold my page over it, run my thumb up it. So this is now, where has it gone? This has now adhered it to this page. So I can just now come in and run the glue stick along here. And that way I know the fold will be exactly, sorry about that, I dropped my glue stick, where it needs to be. So there you go. So that's how I would actually just cover up one of those tears, or I prepare my spine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to do the whole of the book because I will do that as I go along. I will do that off camera because it's a long process. Obviously I've got to do 44 pages and you don't need to be sat through all of that because that would be really boring. So we're going to go on to another part of the project now. Why can't I cut this bit of tape? Everything you do on these pages is going to be pretty much wet. So what I do is, and you'll see me do it on every single page I do if you follow this playlist, I will go through as I'm working and I'll do some collage possibly, and then I'll put Mod Podge on, or I'll put gesso on it just to seal the pages underneath, because these pages are going to be really absorbent to liquid. So I will always do something on here first to cover it before I start putting liquids onto it. So you'll see me do that as we go along anyway, right? So I'm going to move all of that stuff out of the way as much as I can. Put the lid on my glue. We're going to address the covers. Now, you could leave the cover exactly like that. I don't particularly want to leave the cover exactly like that. That's pretty, but you know what? It's going to be an art journal or my mixed media journal, so I don't really want it to look like a flower book. Not that there's anything wrong with a flower book, but it's not a flower book. And as a side note, this is what I refer to as an altered book. You can do journals as altered books. Like this could be a glue book, this could be an art book, this could be things you just stick memories into. Just is one of those. So what I want to do is I pulled out some 12 by 12 cards stock, and I want to actually just mount this on there. And then what I'm going to do is once that's mounted, I will trim this edge off, and then I'll do the same on the other side. Now you can glue this. I like to work quite quickly, so I'm actually going to not glue. I'm going to use one of my favourite things for putting stuff on, and this is double-sided tape. You can buy carpet tape, which is double-sided tape, and I'm using double-sided tape because this is glossy, and I think that if I use glue I might struggle a bit. So let's just bring this in. It's quite heavy duty, and I'm just going to come in and I'm going to glue up to that black ridge, which is where I intend putting the cardboard up to. Now I'm not sure what I'm going to do about the spine, so just trimming that off. Not sure what I'm going to do about the spine. I don't mind the spine being as it is, a black fabric. I know it's got wording on it, but that doesn't mean I have to keep the wording. Because it's fabric, I could just paint directly over the top of it, and I could then just carry the whole paint theme all the way through. So maybe in one of my future videos we'll address the spine, or I'll show you what I did with the spine, because I'm not overly bothered by it, to be honest. I don't mind the spine being the spine. I could put maybe lace around it or something, or a piece of fabric, or I tend to like using my old denim jeans and putting a bit of jean material around it, just so it's a bit more hard wearing. Right, let's just that one across there. Come on, I might need a new blade in this, so or maybe I won't. Right, this is going to be slightly wider than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to peel this one off, just so I can have, can't come to me. I'm notorious for not being able to get backs off stickers. So, right, not sure there's going to be enough on this roll. Hopefully there is. Barely. That's fine. I've just run out by there, so, but we've got another roll, as you can see. So I'm not going to worry about this bit. That'll be totally fine. I do have smaller rolls. If I really get paranoid about it, I can just put some glue there if that's the case. So then I'm going to come in. I'm just going to use my blade to lift the backing off the tape. So come on, off you come. Told you I was bad at this bit. Now there are different glues on the market you could use for this. I mean, there are bookbinding glues. So now I'm not cutting my, let's take the packaging off this because we'll obviously going to need it for the back. I'm not cutting this down to size first. I'm just putting it on. So I'm just using my fingers underneath to gauge where it is height wise, and just lay that down there so it's on there, because once it's on there's no going back with this process. So I'm just going to do that, give it a good old flatten down. Where's my bone folder gone? I had a bone folder 2 minutes ago. Where's the bone folder, people? Oh, grab another bone folder. So just going to go in and give this a bit of a smush down so it's all nicely flattened. And now I find the bone folder. So I'm just going to turn this over and see where it does on the spine. Now I need about, let's say about that much. How much is that? 3/4 of an inch. 3/4 of an inch just to fold over the edge. So I'm just going to eyeball it, and I'm going to take my craft knife and I'm going to run my craft knife down there, and that takes off that. So good bit. I can use that for other stuff, ephemera stuff in the future. So right, that'll give me the front once we've finished it, and I'm going to do the same process on the back, hopefully with less issues with getting the back of the tape. So let's start this all over again. When I do journals, I also tend to use double-sided tape. I find it's a lot quicker for me. I've not had any problems whatsoever with it ever coming unstuck. You can use a combination of double-sided tape and glues if that's something you wish to do. So I could do all of the edges in double-sided tape and then put glue in the middle. I think the reason I avoid using a liquid glue is because sometimes whatever I'm using for the cover will absorb it and stain. That's never a good idea. Right, be a little bit sneaky and do this edge first and then decide what I'm going to do with the middle. Right, let's just peel this one off and put one down the middle then. Where do I find this tape? I usually buy this in my hardware store. Builders merchants usually have it. Hardware stores normally have it. Anywhere that basically sells glues and tapes has probably got something very similar to it. Right, that's that off there. Let's get all the backings off. Right, now we know which orientation the book is in. I just need to make sure I do the same orientation with my piece of craft card, and I'm doing the same as I did before. I'm just eyeballing it. That's pretty much where it needs to be. So I could have chosen any design I wanted from any pack. I just chose the same one, so at least the front cover and the back cover have sort of a theme to them. Let's turn this over, lift this up one more time. Again, I'm just going to eyeball. I'm just using this part of my ruler just so I can judge roughly where it's going to be. As I said, I'm not paranoid about absolute measurements on this. I'm just making sure that I've got enough to fold it over. So, right. So now we've got here, I'm going to do a little bit of work with my bone folder. So what I need to do is I need to work my way along and make sure the paper is curving around the cover, because the cover's a thickish cover, so it's not going to be just a quick fold. I've got to do a bit of negotiating, should we say, to make sure that it's going to curve around there nicely. Once I've done in one direction, because the book's not flat, I can work this with my fingers. There's another reason for doing that, which I'll explain in a second, or doing this, which I'll explain in a second. So once the covers are glued in, it'll be obvious that what we've done makes sense. So again, coming up around the corner, fold the top one over, trying to get as close to that edge of the book as I can. Right. Okay, now I'm going to take a pair of scissors. If I can find a pair of scissors, I can find a pair of scissors. Now, let's lift this up and see if we can see this. Okay, by here, you will see that we've got the edges of the creases. Okay, let's see if I can accent them a little more. You will find that the edge of the crease is actually, let's see if I can do it without cutting it, there. Okay, your instinct would be to cut it there to give yourself a mitered corner, but you need to cut it there so that you've got enough to cover the corner of the book. Now there's a chance that I will actually put book corners on these, because you can get metal book corners, and I quite like putting metal book corners on things. So let's just come in there. So I'm trying to hold the book up and do this at one point in front of the camera. Not the easiest things to do. Oh, I'll shut the book on that one. There you go. And because I use tape instead of glue, I don't have any messy sliding around of the cover or anything like that, which I'm loving. So, right. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in, and something I like to do, and granted, everything I'm doing here, guys, is just the way I do it. Now, I'm going to put a book cover on the inside of here. Like, I'm going to put an extra sheet of card or something on the inside at some point, or maybe I'll put paper or something. So I know that any lines I draw on here are going to get covered up eventually. And I'll probably wait to do that till I've decided basically how I'm enjoying the journal, the art book, or if something presents itself, or maybe I'll do a bit of my own artwork and stick it on the inside of the cover. I mean, I've got pieces of my jelly printing that I might want to use, things like that. So all part of the artistic journal. So, okay, there's a reason why I did that. And that is because I'm going to use, as I said, the red liner tape on here to stick this down. And I don't want the red liner tape being exposed. I want to make sure that it's only going to go, it's only going to be under the cover. So I'm going to come here, and I don't mind being just on the inside of that line. That's totally fine with me. I think I'm going to use the scissors this time, just to snip that off. I'm going to do this on all of the edges that the book is going to, the cover is going to be wrapped around upon. So be aware that the cover here only goes as far as here, so don't put tape past the end of the cover. Right, now let's see whether I can get the backs off this, which we've already seen me struggle with that once before today. So I'm just going to move that up so you can see what I'm doing. Hopefully I was in camera for all of that. I apologise if I wasn't. There you go, that's the back off that one. So just take the back off there. I like to work one strip at a time because if I've got other strips exposed, I'm likely to have a problem with them. Now I'm just going to take some glue. It could be any glue you want. I just happen to have some art glitter glue to hand, and I'm going to run it down here, which is where the edge of the book has no glue. So just that it'll seal around the wrap and seal around the edge, and a little bit there. It's not going to hurt either. Okay, let's put the lid on that one before I forget to. So now it's really important to almost pull this card tight as you wrap it around, because this, once it's down, it's down. You are not moving this. So I give that a good burnish with my fingers. You can come in with the bone folder if you want, just to make sure that it's fully in contact with everything. So there you go. Now you will note here there's a little bit of an overlap. I usually push that in with my thumb so that it's pressed down. I don't know whether I can lift that up to you. See what I mean? So I've pressed it down with my thumb. That's because that little overlap means that the edge of the real book is no longer going to be exposed when I bring the corners up. But as you heard me say, there's a very strong possibility I'm going to be putting book corners on this eventually. And I mean, this is just the basic make of the book. We are going to probably revisit some of the aspects of the book as I go along, so we'll see. Right, here we go. Again, I'm using a bit of the art glitter glue. Just along it. It could be PVA glue, by the way, guys. It doesn't have to be art glitter glue. It just happens to be the first tube I've got to hand. Again, pull this up quite tight. Make sure that everything touches. Give it a good old burnish. And repeat the process. And a little bit there just to help me seal it over. Okay, again pulling this up and over. Give it a good burnish with my fingers. So that will give me, oh, funnily enough, that is my front cover. There you go, that's my front cover. Corners are all concealed, all stuck down. Now I'm going to pause you for a second while I go ahead and do the back cover, because you don't need to see the process twice. Okay, and I might give some thought to what I'm putting on the inside as well, just while I'm thinking about it. Okay, so putting it on pause for a second. So here I'm back again. The front cover is done. The back cover is done. I'm really happy with that. As I said, not sure what I'm doing about this. I could quite easily just paint over that. That wouldn't be a problem. But I could also just do a bit of a wrap around, maybe with some hessian or canvas or something. It depends on how this art journal develops. I did decide that I did want to put in cover pages here. As I said before, periodically flick through and make sure that your pages are still not gluing themselves together at the edges. Just a good practice. Keep separating them and then you won't have problems later on. Not that the problem will be unsurmountable, because the worst you're going to do is rip a little bit and when you force the pages apart. But that's no problem because you're going to be sticking stuff on them anyway. So I pulled out these grey pieces, which I quite liked this grey colour. And I went, you know what, I'm going to do that. And what I'm going to do, I don't mind that the edge of this shows either. I quite like that colour. I just thought that and that just doesn't look right. Or do you think it looks right? Maybe it does look right. I'm having a change of heart now, guys. Yeah, I think maybe we will leave that as brown. Okay, that's fine. I can do that. So what I'm going to stick this down with, I'm not using tape. I'm just going to use art glitter glue because I do know that it actually sticks really, really quickly and really, really well. So I need to go all the way to the edges of this. I mean, I could have used double-sided tape on this, but to be honest, I was like, I've got the glue to hand. It's fine. And I know that this part of the book isn't going to see that much wear and tear, certainly not like the cover will anyway, because the cover will be opened and closed and pushed in and out of bookcases, and you never know, I might even travel with it at some point, so who knows what will happen to it in total. So now art glitter glue grips really quickly, so you don't have a much of wiggle time with art glitter glue. So you need to put it in place and marry the fact that that's what you've done. Actually, you know, I think that's a good idea. I don't mind that together. I might actually do something on there. I may put a piece of art eventually. So that's the front. And I've got the same piece on here, which will fit perfectly there. Do the same again. Now, as I was just saying, this is going to see some wear and tear. Now, the covers of books are usually coated in some way, or sealed in some way, so they're up for a little bit of moisture if it gets rained on or something like this, or if you've got wet hands or something. This, however, hasn't got that coating, so what I'm going to do, and I'll show you the bottle when I've finished doing this, is I'm actually going to paint the outside of the cover of this with Mod Podge. Mod Podge will seal everything in and give me that little bit of protection that the book may not have. So just close the book and let the weight of the book seal that down. Let's put the pin back in that. I'm loving that cover. It does feel like I want to put something there. Maybe as we go along I'll put something on there to say that it was started in 2022. Do you know what I mean? Not really sure. Right, where's that Mod Podge gone? Sorry, that took a while, didn't know where I put it. So this is Mod Podge. So as you can see, it's a water-based glue, sealer and finish. I'm just going to brush this completely over this book once I finish it completely, before I start art journaling in it, just to give it a layer of protection. Now, if I was going to use corners, which I might well do, I need to put them on after I've put the Mod Podge on. So I'm not sure you need to see me do that. I'm just going to finish this video here because I'm conscious it could have gone on for a little while and I don't want it to. So just to reiterate, we recycled a book, or repurposed a book, or upcycled a book, turning trash into treasure, whichever way you want to call it. I went through the process of turning a page, tearing a page, turning a page, tearing a page, then gluing those 3 remaining pages together. I worked from both the front and the back of the book, so I met in the middle. I'm doing what I'm doing now, which is I'm periodically opening the pages to make sure that the glue stick isn't gluing the pages together. This will take a day or so to actually dry because there's a lot of glue in here. I also reinforced the spine by putting washi tape there to actually stop any liquid falling down into that gap. I did the front cover with 12 by 12 paper pad paper, or card, whatever you wish to call it, and I used double-sided tape to stick that on, wrapped it around, and then I put a cover sheet on the inside. And just to reiterate, where's that page gone? There you go. This is the page that I put the extra piece in, so that's going to be nice and secure. Nothing's going to leak through there, nothing will damage any other page, and it's all within the theme. I put the cover pages on there, as I said. Think I'm going to leave that, you never know. I might actually write something there. I might use it as an introduction journal space. Corners, whether I put them on or not, really not sure. And the last thing I'm going to do, as I said, is I'm going to use Mod Podge just to paint over the whole thing to seal it, slightly waterproof it and slightly dirt proof it. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and hopefully you will enjoy the rest of the playlist. I'm going to try and do them quite regularly, the pages, but I'm not sure. We'll see what as we go along, how we go along. It could be, as I said, I may have to take more pages out of this as we go. But there you go. This is me. This is all my social media. This is where you will find me. And I'm Ceri the Crafter. That's Ceri the Crafter. And I will see you in the next one. Bye bye now.